From a rivalry that seems to be almost fate, to a rematch that will establish the true king of middleweight once and for all. As UFC 287 draws near, it's important to consider how Israel Adesanya and Alex Pereira have made it this far. So, what has their journey to the top been like? Well, it's not a well-kept secret that the rivalry between the two isn't new. In fact, it's been brewing long before either of them joined the UFC. To understand just how deep-rooted it is, I need to start from the very beginning. 7 years after his family settled in New Zealand, Israel took up kickboxing. This new and all-consuming passion came from watching Ong Bak, a Muay Thai movie he watched when he was just 18. Adesanya would soon spend the next few years of his career dominating the kickboxing world. His record speaks for itself, after all. 75 wins and 5 losses, 2 of them coming at the hands of his nemesis Alex Pereira, the Potent. His transition into the UFC was a smooth one, making his debut against Rob Wilkinson in 2018 at UFC 221. He won the fight via technical knockout in the second round, making sure everyone knew what a menace he was for the division. The level of skill he faced only got higher after that. After all, his resume is an impressive one. Izzy's defeated the likes of Robert Whittaker, Paulo Costa, Marvin Vittori, and Kelvin Gastelum. Even twice in some cases. It's no surprise to see how the last stylebender held on to his belt for 2 years, defending his title successfully 5 times. Izzy had made it seem that no one was worthy of taking the title away from him, and that's when Pereira joined the promotion. In fact, the indigenous fighter from Brazil is the scariest opponent for Adesanya. On paper, he's just as tall at 6 foot 4 inches. But if you've seen them together, you know he's somehow much bigger. This is mainly because he walks around at 230 pounds, and then somehow pulls off an extreme weight cut down to middleweight at 185 pounds. Other than his massive size, it's his left hand that has time and time again put a stop to Izzy. And their feud dates way back to their Glory days. In 2016, the two faced each other at Glory of Heroes 1 in China. The Nigerian outstruck Pereira, but his opponent landed combinations and shots that damaged Israel. Depending on how you saw it, Potent slowed down toward the end, but Izzy couldn't take advantage of it. The Brazilian would get the unanimous decision win, and things were now set in motion. He ended up eventually winning the Glory middleweight title in 2017, and then defended it 5 times. Before that, he faced Adesanya at Glory of Heroes 7. In Pereira's hometown in Brazil, Adesanya had Pereira by the ropes in the second round, and it looked like he was going to avenge the loss from the first bout, but it just wasn't meant to be. In the third, Pereira delivered a brutal blow to the chin that dropped Izzy. To make things worse, this was the first time the Kiwi fighter had been dropped in his career. That was Adesanya's last kickboxing fight before he switched to the UFC. It didn't take long for his arch-nemesis to follow him, though. There was a lot of hype behind Pereira ahead of his UFC debut, since he'd proved his mettle against the last stylebender. And of course, his first fight in the octagon didn't disappoint, and it was a small glimpse of what the man had to offer. In the first round, Andreas Mihailidis brought the kickboxer down to the canvas and forced him to grapple. But things changed in the second round as Pereira delivered a flying knee 18 seconds into the round that sent Mihailidis down. After following up with some punches, Potent came out victorious and made himself known in the middleweight division. But what really earned him the spotlight was the fight against Sean Strickland at UFC 276. Now, Strickland is a solid fighter, but Potent made it look easy as he knocked out his opponent 2 minutes and 36 seconds into the first round. What makes it even more impressive is the fact that before the fight, Strickland was ranked in the top 5, while Pereira was unranked. His third straight win in the octagon would set Pereira up for a title shot against Adesanya, and their first fight was definitely a memorable one. It was the main event of UFC 281 in Madison Square Garden last November. Izzy was as composed and precise as ever, even adding some grappling into the mix. The Brazilian was down on the scorecards heading into the 5th round, but that wasn't going to stop him from pushing for gold. Pinning Adesanya against the fence, the challenger continued to fire blows. One blow even stunned Stylebender, eventually leading the referee to call a stop to the fight with 3 minutes remaining. So, once again, Potent had shown how he was the former champ's kryptonite. Even though he isn't quite on Adesanya's level in terms of finesse, he possesses scary power. That left hook, man. It's the biggest challenge that Israel has yet to conquer. After one of the most exciting middleweight title fights in UFC history, the two will run it back in the main event of UFC 287 on April 8th, and they are both coming in super motivated. Pereira vows to put an end to this rivalry once and for all, while Adesanya looks to regain the crown and even the score. What's interesting is how Izzy is still the favorite coming into the rematch, probably due to his long run as champ. After all, this is Pereira's first title defense in the UFC, and perhaps his inexperience in the octagon will show. And while many believe that the result won't be different in the rematch, Israel Adesanya has shifted his mindset going into his title fight rematch with his long-term rival. "I'm hunting, and I mean that in every sense of the word," Adesanya said on his YouTube channel. He said that he likes it because it puts it all on him. And for him, it's kind of poetic in a way. The last Stylebender then added that this is his last shot and that he's gonna give it all he's got in every sense of the word. Even right after the fight, Izzy was in good spirits and hasn't let his 3 losses against the Brazilian bring him down. And that's partly due to his dominant reign as the middleweight king. The loss to Pereira marked Adesanya's first at 185 pounds, after all. Before this, his only UFC career loss came against then light heavyweight champ Jan Blachowicz in 2021 when looking for double champ status. For most fighters, losing 3 fights to an opponent you should have beaten would be devastating. But the last Stylebender may prove to be different. He's already the 2nd greatest middleweight of all time. That won't change if Pereira earns the 4th win at UFC 287, but it will taint the former champ's legacy. Glover Teixeira serves as his fellow Brazilian's coach and mentor, and he knows the next fight is likely to be the most difficult of all their previous ones. So, he's aware that it's going to take an exceptional performance to win again, and Potent's execution has been the key focus of the training camp. So, if Izzy's boogeyman is meaning to end the rivalry once and for all, this is the only time Adesanya can prove to the world he can overcome his greatest obstacle. Well, there you have it. This was all about Israel Adesanya and Alex Pereira's road to the thrilling rematch.